Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take your sources, your articles, your research, your notes, and give you that essential knowledge shortcut. Today, we're zooming in on something that feels, well, universal. That spectacle of fireworks. It's just this beloved, glamorous, glittering tradition. You see it for the 4th of July, New Year's Eve, Diwali, pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, it's a global thing.
But you've probably noticed that cities are starting to swap that ancient tradition of combustion for something a bit more cutting edge.
Choreography.
Exactly. So our mission today is really a comparison. What are the true hidden costs environmentally for animals of that huge bang, and how does it stack up against drone light shows?
Right.
And it brings up this deeper question for all of us, really. Is chasing that maximum spectacle still rational when there's a cleaner, quieter alternative? The beam right there. We're sort of questioning this need for sensory overload and maybe looking for enoughness.
And that idea of enoughness really gets to the core tension here. The sources make it so clear that, while fireworks bring that short-term human cheer
For a few minutes. Yeah.
but they impose this really severe long-term environmental and health debt. And that downside includes heavy noise pollution, chemical residues in our air and water, and just literal trash that impacts wildlife.
It's a trade-off.
It's a trade-off that a lot of communities are deciding they're just not willing to make anymore.
Okay, let's unpack that debt, starting with the chemical impact. Because when a traditional firework explodes, it's not just pretty light, it's a combustion event.
A very serious one.
And it releases serious pollutants. Their research goes way beyond just saying nasty chemicals. It points to specific threats.
Precisely. I mean, think about where those colors even come from. It's not magic.
No, it's chemistry.
It's pure chemistry. You're incinerating heavy metals. Barium gives you that green, strontium for red, copper for blue. And when these compounds burn, they create what's called fine particulate matter.
PM 2.5 and PM 10.
Exactly. And those are inhalable particles. They can get deep into your lungs, even into your bloodstream.
And for you, the listener who might not know the distinction, that PM 2.5, that's the really insidious stuff. It's fine enough to cause these short-term surges in air pollution that can aggravate conditions like asthma or heart disease.
And the concentration of these particles just spikes. I mean, it goes way up in the hours right after a big fireworks display.
And that's just the air. The sources show the problem doesn't just, float away. The uncombusted chemical residues, they fall back to Earth.
Right, and one of the most worrying substances is perchlorate. This is the chemical that's used as an oxidizer. It's what makes the fireworks actually explode.
And perchlorate's a problem because it's highly soluble, so it washes into the soil and, more critically, into our water.
Right. It's an endocrine disruptor. I mean, it can actually interfere with the thyroid gland's ability to regulate metabolism. And studies have consistently found elevated perchlorate levels in lakes and rivers right after big fireworks events. It creates this persistent, invisible threat to water quality.
So beyond the chemicals you can't see, there's the stuff you can. The overwhelming physical debris. Fireworks are basically single-use bombs.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. They're wrapped in plastic, packed as cardboard.
And that waste isn't neatly collected. It just falls over huge areas, especially near water.
And animals can easily ingest that debris. Over time, all that plastic wrapping and casing, it just breaks down into microplastics.
There was that study in London, right?
Yeah, the one tracking New Year's fireworks. It found an immediate measurable spike in microplastic contamination. So you get this visible waste problem on the ground and an invisible one in the water.
Okay, so if the chemical footprint hits our air and water, it's the immediate sensory overload, the noise, the unpredictable flash that causes the most visible and acute distress to animals.
Oh, the documentation on this is just profound. We tend to focus on our own pets. Dogs and cats panicking during fireworks.
Of course.
But the impact extends to basically all wildlife. From sea lions on the coast to, thousands of wild birds.
Ecologists have even used weather radar, the same kind used to track storms, to actually see masses of wild birds taking flight all at once when they're startled.
That's incredible.
It is. And that panic rush to escape, sometimes flying for kilometers in a huge mass, it costs these birds crucial energy.
And for birds that are migrating or breeding, that energy loss can be lethal. Think about Independence Day in the U.S. It falls right in the middle of breeding season.
So adult birds are already running low on reserves.
Exactly. They're trying to feed their chicks. If they flee their nests because of fireworks, those eggs or chicks are instantly exposed to predators, to the elements. It can be devastating.
And the numbers are just startling. in Beebe, Arkansas for 2 New Years in a row.
2011 and 2012.
Right. Thousands of blackbirds died after being startled into flight and just hitting things. And more recently, in Taylor, Texas, in 2022, fireworks caused nesting egrets to scatter in the dark. Several of them hit power transformers.
These mass panic flights at night, they're so dangerous, especially in areas with a lot of human infrastructure.
And, we can't forget the impact on our own well-being. While we might go looking for that noise for a celebration, unpredictable, intense sound pollution in cities it's a scientifically proven health risk.
It absolutely is. It drives up stress, it impairs cognitive function, disrupts sleep, and can even lead to cardiovascular problems. Fireworks just dramatically, if briefly, destroy any sense of acoustic calm.
Right, and the sources show that the specific quality of firework noise, its sheer volume, its intensity, its unpredictability, that's what makes it uniquely damaging compared to, say, regular city traffic.
And cities are finally starting to acknowledge this need for quietude. Holistic urban planning is shifting all over the world. You see places like Tokyo, New York, Copenhagen, Melbourne.
All actively trying to manage sound.
Yeah, they're integrating acoustic barriers, green roofs for sound absorption, creating quiet zones. For a modern city, quiet isn't a luxury. It's a public health standard.
So if the data is so compelling, what does this mean for the organizations, the cities that fund and manage these big civic celebrations?
Well, we're seeing a growing, really intentional trend of cities choosing quieter alternatives. And that's a powerful signal, a real commitment to this idea of sufficiency.
There are some great examples of this policy shift. Hingham, Massachusetts, for one.
Right. They made a direct, eco-conscious choice. They swapped their Independence Day fireworks for a drone show set to music.
And the reason was specific.
Very specific. It was to protect a vulnerable colony of nesting American oyster catchers on the harbor islands.
And the community response, reportedly overwhelmingly positive.
And they found these other benefits they weren't even expecting. Less plastic debris washing up on their shores, and a more inclusive experience for people sensitive to loud noise veterans with PTSD, young kids, and of course pets.
That drive for animal protection and inclusivity seems to be a huge catalyst in Europe, too. Look at Hungary. 5 cities, including Balaton Almaty and Tata, they just banned centrally financed New Year's fireworks.
And the main reason was animal welfare. Specifically, the fact that over 1,000 dogs were reported missing after the previous year's celebrations.
1,000 dogs. That number just shows how deep that panic response is. The sudden bangs trigger this evolutionary flight response, pushing animals to just run until they're exhausted or find cover.
And the Tata example is a perfect conservation success story. The town acted specifically to protect thousands of wild geese and water birds that were wintering on Lake Erig.
So what happened?
By choosing quiet, they kept a huge majority of the birds right there on New Year's morning. They didn't flee. In another city, Esztergom, they got creative and did a light painting show instead of pyrotechnics.
And this isn't just happening at the city level. The Netherlands is taking major national action.
That's right. They're planning to ban private consumer fireworks entirely, starting New Year's Eve 2026, citing public safety and environmental protection. The policy winds are clearly shifting away from combustion.
Which brings us to the technological solution that lets communities keep the awe and the spectacle without the damage.
A drone light show. It's the ultimate shift from chemical explosion to programmable, reusable light.
So when we talk about drone light shows, we're talking about hundreds, sometimes thousands of drones flying in these intricate, synchronized formations.
Right. You're swapping out a brief, single-use explosion for precise, cutting-edge choreography.
And the creative potential seems vast.
It's a huge technical jump. Fireworks are limited by physics to, pretty simple explosions. Drones can create dynamic 3D patterns, figures, glowing slogans, even mesmerizing moving animations.
The control you have is just on another level.
Completely. They can even integrate interactive things like giant glowing QR codes in the sky, which makes them incredibly effective for civic messaging or even marketing.
We saw a great example of this digital artistry in Budapest in May 2025, a 400 drone show over Gellert Hill.
Yeah, that was a stunning 7-minute spectacle. It depicted iconic national sites like the Parliament and Buda Castle. It's using technology for emotional storytelling.
And that reusability aspect is probably the key sustainability credential here.
Absolutely. Drone shows eliminate fine dust, carbon dioxide, and chemical residues. So you have clean air, noise pollution is virtually gone, replaced by this low, consistent hum, which is far less disruptive.
But the crucial part is that the drones are long-term assets.
Exactly. Reusable for countless shows.
Right.
That drastically reduces waste and saves resources compared to single-use fireworks that literally turn resources into smoke.
But what about the cost? I mean, how do cities manage what must be a huge initial cost to switch over? A drone show has to have a significant upfront price tag.
That is the exact hurdle the sources point to. The initial political barrier can be really high, but the long-term cost benefits are compelling. Well, once a municipality secures the core drone fleet and the software, the cost per show drops significantly. It's much lower than the continuous escalating expense of custom single-use chemical pyrotechnics.
Not to mention the avoided costs of cleanup.
And environmental remediation, exactly.
Okay, but we have to acknowledge that any cutting-edge tech carries its own risks. Drone shows, while definitely safer than explosives, still involve hundreds of machines flying through the air. You've got risks like crashes or collisions.
Which is why professional execution is absolutely non-negotiable. Key safety measures have to be strictly enforced.
Like what?
Like comprehensive and regular maintenance, maintaining safe distances from crowds, using emergency landing functions, and of course securing all the necessary flight permits and following local aviation rules.
But with those professional controls in place.
The safety profile is exponentially better than launching combustion explosives over crowds of people.
So if we connect this choice back to the bigger picture, this shift from fire to light is a really beautiful, concrete example of what the research calls eco-sufficiency.
Precisely. Sufficiency is a strategy that's focused on reducing consumption and production levels and limiting the demand for resource-intensive services.
So choosing drones over fireworks is a clear sufficiency action.
It is, because you're moderating the need for wasteful single-use products. You're favoring an intrinsically low-energy activity, flying LEDs over mass chemical combustion.
It's an approach that avoids just telling people to stop enjoying celebrations. Instead, it's about upgrading the experience to align with environmental responsibility.
Right. Effective conservation often involves finding more sustainable options that still don't take the pleasure out of having these things.
This choice also reinforces what's called the behavioral component of nature connectedness, a public commitment to protect the natural environment.
And when communities intentionally choose quiet and clean technology, they are actively endorsing that commitment. This protection of nature is intrinsically linked to our own well-being and a broader sense of civic responsibility.
So we've really come full circle. The traditional bang is, it's inextricably linked to chemical pollution, animal panic, and plastic debris.
While the modern beam offers clean, quiet, customizable, reusable, and inclusive spectacles, it really is, by almost every measure, a compelling and rational trade for the modern city.
It demonstrates a community's willingness to exchange that sensory overload for a more sustainable kind of pleasure.
Yeah, it shows a growing awareness that we can maintain our cultural rituals and that sense of collective awe without damaging the environment or causing distress to countless living things.
So if a major cultural ritual like New Year's Eve, which is so deeply ingrained, can be successfully redefined by prioritizing quietude and environmental health, it raises an important question. What other deeply ingrained practices, from commuting to how you consume resources in your own home, might we discover are due for a sufficiency upgrade in our daily lives?
That's a great question to end on.
Think about that as you consider where spectacle still outweighs sustainability in your own routines.